Hey, welcome to Mama Mandala. I'm Hagar. Welcome to this new moon in Virgo. Full disclaimer, I'm not an astrologer. I'm more of a mythologist. I love working with archetypes. I love bringing them into the body. I love playing with the way that symbols and stories interact with us on collective levels. So I find the astrological wheel, the zodiac wheel, to be a great way for us to observe how and interact with and engage in the way that these archetypes move through the collective sky and touch different aspects of ourselves on individual levels, and the way that each of these archetypes in one way or another in their full expression or in the hidden parts of them remind us of our interconnectedness, remind us that we are never separate, that we are interdependent. And Virgo, in fact, this archetype that we're playing with today, because it's a new moon in Virgo, Virgo is obviously related to the word virgin in English, and it's we know this word today to mean someone who never had sex, but really it referred to in its origin in ancient times a woman who was independent, who wasn't married, who was onto herself, who chose her own path. Sometimes, often actually, it referred to priestesses that worked in temples of goddesses, and they were often, in fact, priestesses who used their sexuality as the means of connecting with the divine for themselves, for someone else. So virgin is not someone who has never had sex, but someone who stands on their own. And of course, this reminds us also simultaneously that we never fully stand on our own, that we can strengthen the muscles of our individuality, which I think is important, and also remember that our individuality is never separate from the collectivity, from the community of which we're a part, from the families we come from. Even if we cut ties with things, even if we didn't grow up in the family that we were born to, there is an interconnectedness between us and other people. And with more than the human world, we're all, I mean, you're breathing, right? We take a deep breath and we let in the plant world. And as we exhale, we nourish it back. There is no separation between us and everything else. And yet there's the possibility and really the health of individuation. And speaking of, this is kind of cool. The archetype of Virgo is very much related to the meter and to her daughter Persephone. So, Virgo happens, the sun is in Virgo in the time of year where it's harvest season, right? Where Virgo is a mutable sign, which means it takes us from one season into the next. It marks the end of a season. It's the last phase of a season, and it ushers us toward the next season. And so it takes us in the abundance of the land toward decay, right? It teaches us that as we pass the peak, there's still a lot to eat. There's still a lot to feed everyone with. And in fact, this is kind of the season that metaphorically we gather all the fruit of our hard work. And Virgo is a hard worker. This is kind of one of its greatest traits, is that Virgo loves to work. This is kind of like where purpose and meaning live for the archetype of Virgo. So it's the parts of us where we find what we want to work with, what we want to work on. So it's not, the shadow of it obviously is the workaholic, but it's not necessarily work, because we're so accustomed, right? We live under capitalism, and at least here I live in the States, so definitely living under the suffocation of capitalist system. And for a lot of us, we then start to associate work with capitalism, and work is so beautiful. It can be so important. It can bring so much meaning and create so much value, and it does take us in the Virgo archetype to where we are interconnected, because Virgo loves to be of service. So Virgo finds meaning, and it's again, the archetype, not just the zodiac sign, not just people born in this time. Who knows? These are traits that we all hold, and I don't care so much about where Virgo is in your astrological chart. I mean, of course, that can be really helpful to look at if we want to, and it can open up doorways to other conversations. But it's an opportunity as a collective archetype to look at what is your relationship with work, not just with the work of how you make your money. That can be a part of it, but all the work that you do in your life, inner work included. And this is the time of year that this is the meter's time. This is the time of the mother of the mother archetype, but she's starting, as the fall will come, she's starting to transition into her role as a crone. And she has a daughter named Persephone who individuates, who moves away from her. You know, there's a lot to this story. And in fact, if you want to learn more about Demeter and Persephone, join us for the Somatic ceremony that celebrates the fall equinox and the transition into the season of fall. You're going to have a bunch of practices. There's five sessions that take you through practices that bring you these embodied into an embodied relationship with archetypes and symbols and mythologies and stories, and a meditation and pranayama session, and a whole session that I just recorded it a few days ago, and it's like an hour and 40 minutes or so of a conversation about the different archetypes, and you can take that with you on a walk or on a drive and listen to it over some time. You don't have to listen to it all at once. It's rich. It's got a lot in it. There's a lot of journal prompts. So if you'd like that, I'm going to leave a link in the description of the video for you so you can check it out. I would love for you to join. It's tiered pricing, and it's a beautiful experience, and that's it for that. But these archetypes of the mother and her daughter, this process of the grief of release that happens during this time of year, right? There's the release of the fruit of the work. In fact, I got this quote from the Bhagavad Gita, which is one of these texts that are so important for the yoga tradition and has been studied for so long by all the different yoga schools and traditions over history. This text is rich and incredible, and I have some videos on it and more coming. But in this text, it's a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna is the warrior, and Krishna is the charioteer. It's a story that comes from, it's a text that comes from the Mahabharata, one of the great epics of Indian literature. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna and Arjuna have a conversation right in the middle of the battlefield. And it's a conversation about a lot of things. It's a conversation about the meaning of life and food and when to sleep and how to eat. Like it's literally, they talk about everything. But one of the things that Krishna shares with Arjuna, and this is a quote that's shared a lot of people have this quote, and it says from this translation, Winthrop Sargent translation of the Bhagavad Gita, he writes it this way: your right is to action alone, never to its fruits at any time. Never should the fruits of action be your motive. Never let there be attachment to inaction in you. Right? Never should be attachment to inaction. So don't try to not do, right? We're always going to do. By not doing, we're doing something. That's one of the main lessons of the text. But, you know, Krishna tells Arjuna not to focus on action, but not to focus on the fruit of the action, but only on the action. Because when we're so focused on the result, we're not really present in what we're doing in our process. So a lot of people take this quote and think, oh, I'm not going to focus at all on the result, and I'm not going to care about what the result is. And that's kind of not really human. Of course we're going to care about what the outcome of what we're doing is going to be. It's not that we need to drop the care that we have for what the result is and the outcome is, but we want to put our focus and our attention and our presence in the work, in the process. And that's really what this there's many ways to interpret it, but this is one way to interpret it. So care about what the result is, and Virgo very much cares about the result, very much cares that what this archetype is doing is practical and has value and has a result and has an outcome and has a sense of accomplishment, and there's ambition there, and there's also a tendency toward perfectionism, right? So the focus on the result can be so intense that nothing feels like it's enough. So we're dealing with the parts of us that it's like relentlessness, which can be so beautiful and so helpful, right? Virgo can create incredible things. We can make amazing things happen and give incredible shapes to visions that we have when we really put ourselves to it, when we have high standards, right? Like, I think personally, high standards, that's awesome. I have high standards with friends, in my relationship with my husband, I try not to impose that on my kids, but for myself, for how I write, for anything that I do, there's high standards. And by the way, just like an honest an honest thought, when I put these videos out on YouTube for you, I have to let go of my perfectionism, because I can do it again and again and again and again, and it's never perfect. Never, ever, ever. My videos all are full of because I'm thinking as I'm speaking. So there's a conversation here between caring about what we're doing, how we're presenting, how we show up, and a willingness to say, it's good enough. I'm good enough. And it takes a lot of work for some of us. Some of us are very hard on ourselves. So maybe on this new moon, maybe we continue a process of being both not letting go of our demanding of excellence from ourselves, because I think we can do that in ways that are healthy and that produce beauty and create abundance and create space for others to prosper in. Does that make sense? Like, we can do beautiful things when we are grounded in a vision of excellence and a willingness to do the hard work that it requires, and develop at the same time a softer, more accepting, more receptive quality in the way that we bring ourselves into our relationship with ourselves and with others, right? Because others are not perfect, and they're going to reflect to us that we are not perfect, and we're going to face aspects of ourselves that are not perfect, and we have to look at those things in ourselves and in others. And how do we then develop a healthy relationship with our flaws, weaving it into the fabric of our desire for excellence? And one of the traits of this archetype is reliability. Virgo is reliable, very there's accountability. Virgo is dependable. It's the part of you that you can depend on to show up, to not give up. Here's a little story. The other day, my son was trying to build this beautiful structure from blocks. I mean, it was amazing. He builds amazing things, and he was stacking them together, and it kept breaking. Like there was a point, there was something specific he was trying to create. He was trying to create the slide and these stairs, and there was a point that he reached every time he tried it, that then things fell apart. Right, Virgo. He also a Virgo rising actually. Virgo creates structures and puts together systems, right, to support the work. So, what are the systems and what are the structures that can be supportive for you and more than you in what you're working on and working with in your life right now, right? So my son was building this structure. I'm just like sprinkling in at you some thoughts within thoughts within thoughts. So he's building this structure and it keeps falling apart. And he tried to do it 4 times. And every time it fell apart, he screams. This guy has a really loud sound. He can scream and whoo. So he builds it and it falls apart and he screams and then tries again and tried again and tried again. And then the 5th time that it happened, he kind of like screamed and left it and was heartbroken, right? He said, I don't want to do it anymore. I'm not going to keep doing it. Like, he was so mad. And he went to the keyboard and started playing. And I asked, do you want me to come and hug you? And he said, yes. And I came and hugged him. And he's like, what's the point? He breaks my heart with these words. He's like, what's the point? People always say it's good to try, but sometimes it's better to just give up. My heart went. But then I thought about what he said. And I said, it's really true that it is important and that you should, not shoulds, but that it's valuable to keep trying. It's a really good idea to keep trying. And there are moments where you can call it give up, but you don't have to think about it as you're giving up. You can think about it as I'm setting it aside for right now. I'm turning my attention to something else. This is not working for me and it's not making me happy or feel like it's like the valuable kind of disappointment and struggle. So I'm going to turn myself towards somewhere else, and maybe I'll come back to it and maybe I won't. And I felt proud of myself because that was like almost like a lesson that I need to tell myself sometimes. No, it's not always going to work, and you're going to try different things, and you're going to try the same thing a few times and many times. And if you decide that this is it, and it feels a little bit like defeat, that's a part of it. We want to. I want to welcome all the feelings, right? When I feel defeated, I want to say, wow, this is a feeling of defeat. Now, what do I want to do with it? What do I want to put it in relationship to? What do I want to create further from this feeling? Do I want to create more defeat? Do I want to try again? Do I want to try something else? And this is, in a way, I'm thinking, Virgo in its power. It's this invitation to not just get shit done, but to get shit done for the purpose of meaning and something that is nurturing. Like, again, it's Demeter, it's the nurturing goddess energy. It's something that it's the invitation to do it for something more than you. And because independent and interdependentness live together. And it's also, it's to do it not just for the sake of doing it, but doing it for the sake, is this making something that's valuable? Is this serving something more than me? Is this practical enough? Like, does it have use? Is it useful? It's one of Virgo's greatest desires, like to be useful, to be helpful. And what a beautiful invitation to ask ourselves, how can I be helpful in this world today? And not impose it, right? I always want to be careful of it because I have this sense of justice, right? Like, this is the next sign in the zodiac wheel. The next archetype is Libra, right? And she has a strong sense of justice. She's the embodiment of the lady of justice. So, and a lot of the lunar cycle that we're starting today is going to be in Libra. So we have another week or so of Virgo, and then we move into Libra. So a sense of justice, a sense of doing something for more than ourselves. And when we show up to a world that's full of injustices, we just want to do something about it. And sometimes it's some to kind of like play with the quote from the Gita. Don't get attached to inaction. Don't get attached to your action. Like, it's not like, oh, there's nothing I can do. It's just going to do its thing. I'm going to pause and not do. But I'm going to pause and look at the different aspects of what's happening. And I'm going to give ourselves some time in the discomfort before we rush into saving the world, right? Because what we might think of as saving the world is going to create other issues, right? So I'm not saying let's not do anything, but let's pause, right? Let's reflect. And it's not Virgo's strength, but it's the invitation of this archetype into this archetype to not just get shit done, but also to take our time with the conversation, with the reflection. I have so many more things to play with you, but maybe we'll do it another time. Another time we'll play with this archetype. But in the meantime, have a beautiful new moon. Enjoy this glorious invitation, this powerful possibility that lives in the metaphor and in the mythical qualities of a new moon. And it's the invitation to plant seeds. And some of us celebrate the Jewish New Year in the next couple of days, right? The new moon is aligned with the Rosh Hashanah Eve, which is the Jewish New Year, and it's an opportunity to plant seeds, to eat something sweet, right? We eat apple and honey to bless the year with sweetness, and we also eat pomegranate because it's sweet and tart, right? It's got a complexity to its flavor, and its flesh is its seeds. So we get to spread the seeds and set our intention. And it's kind of beautiful because in the Jewish New Year, the year begins and then begins some really deep contemplation. It's not like we do all the contemplation, we do all the letting go, and then the New Year starts. No, the New Year starts, and then there's 10 days, and then there's Yom Kippur, which is a day of atonement. And I have a lot of opinions about that, and we can talk about that another time. But in any case, we can learn from this tradition, even if you're not Jewish, and consider the seeds that you want to plant in this new moon and in this new year if you're celebrating Rosh Hashanah. And plant them in the grounded, embodied qualities of Virgo, because she's grounded. It's an earth sign, but it's a mutable sign, right? She changes the season from summer into fall. So it's grounded, but changeable, like the earth itself. And then a lot of the cycle is going to be in the justice and truth and grounded in a sense of justice qualities of Libra and the beauty that that archetype wants to create. So we place the seeds in the soil of the grounded and excellent Virgo, and we continue to nurture the seeds in the scale of justice and equality of Libra. And these are opportunities both archetypes invite us through, oh my gosh, I keep talking, through their vision for discernment, right? Both of them are discerning, and one of Virgo's kind of like shadow qualities is judgmentalism. Is that a word? And so we can use this energy of discernment and keep it going, like as we go into fall. What are we bringing in? What are we letting compost? What are we planting in the ground to grow? What are we letting the ground to break down and nourish that which we're growing? So, some things to think about. I hope this is helpful. check out the mamamandala.com, the website. A lot of writing going on there, and also the fall equinox somatic ceremony, which will be a beautiful experience for us together. And subscribe to our mailing list, okay? It's on mamamandala.com. You can just subscribe there, or I'm going to leave a link in the description of the video. And subscribe to this channel if you like this video, and put a little like on it, because those are always helpful. And share it with your peeps. All right. Mwah! Happy new moon.